a trick to help me. Remembering things while growing up. What happened in that order? My mom would say, remember when we were 12 and threw up from food poisoning at that restaurant? Remember, and I was like 12. And my mother would say, that was the day we saw Indiana Jones 3 and you liked it so much. And after that, what did we do? And I'd be like, oh yeah, that restaurant, yeah. And so I relied on movies to remember things. So my timeline of memory relied on when I had seen movies. And why do I bring this up? My mother always took me to movies. Always, even without captions. We would sit in the theater and the images would appear before us. Were we bored? Even when I was a restless kid? No. Was I fascinated? The camera, the lighting, the framing. The camera was always moving. I moved on the actors as they spoke. I was transfixed. The separated pictures without words. No dialogue at all, just the pictures that came together to tell a story. And it was truly powerful. Wow. Especially for one movie. It's stuck in my head to this day. It still stands out. How many of you have seen it? All of you? Yeah. This was probably the first movie I'd seen, that I remember seeing at least. I remember being a little kid and sitting in a theater with my mother, all excited, and we saw it all the way to the end, and I was in tears. I couldn't sleep that night, and my mother tried to comfort me, but E.T. was gone. I was devastated by that, but I lingered on one part. Remember the opening? The movie opens at night in the woods. A UFO flashes its light above, the trees blow in its path and it lands, and a creature, something scurries out of the craft. The tree bristles as it moves into the cars and trucks arriving on the scene. The high beams illuminating, one of the cars comes to a stop and a pair of shoes comes on the ground. The camera stays at the feet, then it pans up to the set of keys hanging off the man's belt. They don't show the man's face at all. The camera is focused on the keys. I see this. Who was the man? I don't know. Why was he here? I don't know. And all I knew was that he was chasing the creatures and failed to get in the car, and the aliens escaped to the city. The man goes back and we fade out. Later in the movie, after the famous bicycle scene near the end, E.T. was dying of disease. They find him and bring him home. They bring him to the bathroom and hide it there as it dies. The boy weeps over E.T.'s body, and then the camera cuts to outside with the police, NASA, and assorted officials are arriving. One of the trucks pull up the door, and out comes the same feed again. The camera pans up to reveal the same keychain. Do we see his face? I don't know. What's his job? I don't know. But that one detail from before, the keychain, matches up with the keychain here. That tells us right away that this is the bad guy. He's ready to take E.T. and go. We know this all from the keychain, that one detail. And after that, I knew. I wanted to make movies from that point on. I wanted to make separate pictures that came together to give us a story, without relying on a script, spoken or signed. It was those pictures. And from there, my journey began. Later, I entered Gallaudet University. I took courses toward a film major. In one of my classes, there was a professor, Facundo. He passed away recently. He was hearing and couldn't sign. He would brush away the sign language and sign to him, attempt to sign. I can do it, he said, and so he signed slowly. Eventually, over time in class, he assigned a project that stood out. Visual expression? Up until that point, we had learned how to frame shots, how to tell a story, and so on, but this was different. The teacher had a hard time explaining this. Class, I want you to express something about yourself. I could say something about myself, but what? Then he showed a work of his. He was hearing, remember? The work was from his university days. It had an unusual opening. The camera lingered on his face as he faced the camera without a shirt. The camera cuts at grass blowing in the wind. Got some pizza? Is that mine?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Right? You didn't take?
What the fuck is wrong with this? It usually does.
What do you think it is?